Hello. Welcome, 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 welcome. All right, let's do this. Where did you go? Okay. Mm, mm, mm. Was that the one? Hold on. Sorry. Okay, is this one? It was this one. Okay, let's do it. Oh, hide the name. Okay, share screen. Yo. Okay. Get the aspect grid popping. Just over here. Crystal, magic crystal. Let's get into that meditative mode. All right. So, what do we have here? Aries moon in the 10th house with an 8th house Aquarius sun conjunct Uranus with a north node in Leo. Interesting. Key aspects Pluto square Mercury, and that's mostly it. So, not many big aspects, at least that are shown. Seven card, new card, and 20 fixed. Uh-huh. Uh, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So, so. Um, First of all, karmically, um, so with a North Node in Leo, right? So South Node represents the been there, done that in past lives, right? I'm a karmic astrologer. I like to really um, bring the karma to this life, connect the two and see, okay, what are we, what's the main themes here? So South Node, as I said, it's by sign in the house, it represents, like what, like kind of like our cosmic PhD, I guess you could say, like where we have where we've already kind of I guess done enough. And it's not a bad energy, it's just like, we've mastered it. So it's in the same sign as your sun. Um, and when you have South Node in Aquarius, and I've had many clients with this, and I've talked to many clients who've had this, and I've seen this theme of a lot of times, these are people who are natural empaths on a soul level. They are, they're very, very, it can be difficult for them to accept praise, right? So being able to allow yourself to accept praise, allow yourself to, it's this journey into authentic self-expression, which is in the inner child, right? That's what Leo is all about. um, the fact that it's in the eighth house with Neptune makes me think that you have some real interesting past life witch, mystic, spiritual, like occult, like, you've got some real talents there, right? So in this life with the Leo North node, you're here to really allow, it's time for you to be a little bit selfish in this lifetime, and not in a bad way, but when it comes to like the giving and taking, usually the South Node Aquarius is a lot more of the giver. And sometimes when you're so much of the giver, it pushes you away from exploring your true deepest your deepest kind of creative self, right? um so having boundaries and kind of having like a creative purpose is really important. um so yeah, that's something I see all the time when I talk to people like this, is like, just on like a very unconscious level. um Sometimes it's like a discomfort when it comes to accepting praise. Oh, and you have yourself, your nodes are square Jupiter. Very interesting. So, um, with your sun in the eighth house, which I have mine there too, eighth house sun people are here to transform. They go through many periods of their lives where it's almost like it's such a drastic evolution, such a drastic change, that they almost feel as if it's an actor or actress who is playing them at these different points in their lifetime, right? That's how, obviously every human um goes through big changes, but the eighth house sun, it's drastic, and they're here to learn lessons around letting go. um they're here to learn lessons around surrender, right? And it's not always easy, you know and it goes back to the what the ego wants and what the soul needs. And one quick second, I'm just pouring out a cup here in the bathroom, so just want to make sure you can still hear me clearly. So I'll probably just wait a second. That was wait. I made my AC way too cold. Mika, what are you doing? Way, way too cold. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, the eighth house sun individual is most definitely someone who has to just, they're here to really just, allow themselves to experience. And one thing about it is that it's very, and I say this very often, right? That it's very important to, because a lot of eighth house, it's very, very much, kind of related to the occult, the esoteric. Um, it's really like the gates to the unknown, right? So eighth house sun people are very interested in the mysteries of life, right? So they're very deep, deep probing people. And through that probing, they find new levels of awareness, right? So one thing about eighth house suns, I always tell people this, is that it's very, very common for there to be for them to grow in such massive ways. And if they still live, where they grew up, right? Around the people they grew up with, blah, blah, blah. there can be a sort of awkwardness where they're growing, and obviously it depends on the people, right? But there can be it can be a little bit awkward when you're transforming, because that's what it is. It's because you're willing to go into the depths, right? You're willing to explore the areas of life that most people, you have this third eye, this open third eye, right? And that comes from your past life with this Neptune, the planet of high spirituality and mysticism, on your south node, meaning that you were someone who most definitely was very spiritual. Now, what's really interesting about this karmic story, though, is that Jupiter is squaring it, right? And that is a skip karmic step around unresolved material relating to the person's beliefs and the teachings that they followed. And basically, like, their grand, like, so in past lives, like your grand philosophies that you based your life off of, like everyone, I always say this, like, if there's a person that believes everything the mainstream media says, right, and is completely against spirituality, atheist, they're going to have a way different dharma, right? What they do with their life, what they think is important, than the person who is super spiritual and super open-minded and does, blah, 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 right? So with the square to Jupiter, a lot of times there's a conflict in how the truth, the truth in quotes, right? Like the truth, your personal truth, right, was perceived. And there could, a lot of times with that, there's some type of inner lie or external lie, right, of kind of the true, I guess, you know, like the true meaning of life. So it's like, imagine like a lifetime where there was some type of indoctrination, right? And because of that, your worldview was a certain way, right? Um, like a great lie, which then could lead to like a crisis of faith. Um, and sometimes it could have been like a teaching that was followed in a prior lifetime. Um, but then that leads to difficulty, a fundamental difficulty, for that person to really understand their place in the greater scheme of all existence, right? And it can lead to, past life alienation. But really, I think of it as like summarized, I think of it as like past life conditioning, like a certain conditioning from past lives that, you know, like in respect to the truth, that led one astray. So in this life, and that's why you see, I always make these links. That's why you're an Aquarius in this lifetime with Uranus on your sun in the 8th house, because you're here to truly within yourself delve deep and be a very individualistic type of person, right? You're here to truly, truly, truly transform, and live a life where you're not following anyone. You're really living your own life based off of your own intuition, and you're seeking and seeking and seeking this truth. So with with Uranus on the sun, the 8th, that is super, that's someone who is like very, very Aquarius. They're like Aquarius sun conjunct Uranus, like are like people I've met with that, like I have a good friend who has that, like they are aliens. They are fucking aliens, in a good way. Like I've never met one who, like, they just don't give a shit, in a good way. And they're gonna do them. They're gonna live their lives, and sometimes people won't understand it. And that's why I was saying earlier about, like, it can be difficult, right? When you grow up with certain people, and maybe those people kind of want you to be, um that older version of you, right? That's why whenever I see eighth housers, I'm like, I always want to know, like, did you, move away, or did you, how was that? Because it can be very uncomfortable. My own experience with that is very in line with what I said, right? Like, going through big transformations, having different friends, different kind of life, uh, different things going on in my life, realities, right? That served me at one time, and then through my growth, I outgrow them, and then all of a sudden I'm not as fun anymore. I'm not as, all that stuff, right? So, um, it's not necessarily like running away. It's not like running away from your problems. It's just like, it's either like, it's creating boundaries, right? Because that's unfortunately how some people are, is that when they see someone growing and they're not, they want to bring that, that person back. They almost like, don't they miss the old version of that person, right? um Especially if it's something like astrology or spirituality that they don't agree with, right? So it's kind of like a, it's very good in the sense that, you're someone who is here for some real growth, and open-mindedness. And eighth house sun people also, there's a Scorpio element to it, Plutonian element of like really being able to be very obsessed. And a lot of your life as the eighth house sun is meant to be kind of in the more unseen realms, right? So, um you know like, the big thing, right, is to not be afraid of alienation. And with Neptune on the south node, that could actually have been a theme in past lives where perhaps, um there was some type of alienation, right? And there could be a fear in this lifetime, potentially, that if you were to say really, go in a direction that's completely individualistic and at odds with, you know, people in your life, that, you know, you could face some type of alienation, right? So if you think about Neptune on the South Node, it really speaks about the art of letting go, right? And it really is an invitation to drop what's no longer working for you, right? And that's kind of what the whole eighth house is about. It's really about, it's based on the universal idea of, in order to make room for new and better energies in your life, you sometimes have to make tough decisions, and letting go of things, people, environments, whatever, that are no longer serving you. So basically, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. Mm. So I think, like, also with Neptune on the South Node, by doing like past life regressions, or doing anything like that deepens you, deep meditations, any kind of deep spiritual work, you can really, like, especially with Uranus being on your sun, like, these two energies are like, ambassadors into our solar system, right? These are like energies that are very, are from very, very, very far away. So, um, basically like that the more that you're able to lean into these areas, right? The more that you're able to open your eyes to all the possibilities of life and to allow change when it needs to happen, right? To have strong boundaries of like, okay, I'm going this way, because that's the Leo North Node's asking you, right? Second house is about boundaries also. And it's really asking you to not also just it's asking you to not just hold on to things just for the sake of holding on to things. It's asking you to really find internal resources within yourself so that you don't need to rely on anyone else, right? Um, so yeah, Neptune very 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 important. And it can give you like many visionary gifts, right? Um, really really good for like having like past life creative artistic talents. Um, like there's actually lots of artists that have that, right? Um, but in terms of like, so it's definitely, as I said, like that you definitely probably led like a very mystic kind of life. Um, and you come in this life naturally having all these different spiritual insights, right? Um, but sometimes people with this, they prefer to kind of push that away, right? Even though they're gifts, and stay out of the limelight and not cause like a big fuss, right? But it makes you very very close to the spiritual and you know the spiritual intuitive realms of imagination and all that. So there's like almost like a Piscean Aquarian staple on your south node, which are the two last signs. So there could be a level of like seclusion, like in terms of like your work, and it can sometimes create like more hermit types of people, and sometimes people who are like so sensitive that they prefer to kind of hide away, right? um so sometimes people with this, they don't feel like they're such a like they can feel disconnected from the world, right? Is it like yeah, like kind of like if they're like living in like an alien world, right? And it's important to not resort to like drugs or any kind of escapism, right? um that can come from any alienation. That's why it's so important and you're born in 2000. Okay, so yeah, you're very young, right? um so with Saturn in the 11th, right? Because I was going to say it's very important for you to find your tribe, but Saturn in the 11th can sometimes restrict that from happening like fully until the Saturn return. Um, so, but you know, once like the first big step is just like understanding, okay, I'm just different, like I'm not like everyone else. I have my own views of things, and you know, with the Saturn where it is, it people with that, they're usually like their mantra with friends is usually like, I'd rather have a few really good friends than a lot of friends I can't necessarily rely on. That it's not that deep, right? So definitely a very special person, someone who can really like through their intuition find so much, right? Um, yeah. So with Uranus Sun, besides that, yeah, it just creates like a leader, but also a rebel, right? So a lot of people with that, they moved away from home early on, or they just really, really want like very, very independent, very innovative. There's a genius aspect to it. Is your Chiron in what sign is your Chiron in? Is it in one of the? Let me guess before I see. Let me guess. I don't. I swear I don't see it. It's like covered by. I wonder if it is in. I wonder if it's in. It wouldn't be in Scorpio. Hmm. Hmm. I wonder if it's in. I want to guess this. I'm getting good at guessing Chiron sign. Hmm. Hmm. Could be in Capricorn. But could there? What about in? My guess is Scorpio. Let's see. Nope. Sag. I was wrong. Well, so yeah, like accepting that inner rebelliousness and that thing of that idea that as I said, like people may like just not giving a fuck about how other people see you because people might see you as arrogant or disruptive, right? Someone who has like a life full of surprises, who thinks ahead of their time, right? But that idea of like finding your individual self, like the authentic, like so we have the conditioned self, right? Like we listen to all the media, all our school and blah blah blah, and then we come to like our conclusion of who we are, right? A lot of people, that's like the majority of people in the world, right? Most people don't know how to think critically. For you, it would definitely be um very, very important to align yourself with what really, really, really gets you going on a deep level, right? Um, and I want to actually open the Squarespace. Okay. Gotcha. So, yeah, I'll definitely get into the love stuff and stuff about career. So, everything is relative in astrology, right? And I think already, like, you're not gonna like you have so much creative talent and so much mystical talent, but this can be used in so many different areas, right? But I think regardless of what you do work wise, the more that you dive into spirituality, I mean, like whenever I get the you 2000 babies, um, like I know that the people that come to me, because I'm not the astrologer that's going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to fucking give it to you raw. Um, I always know those people are special. Um, it's not so many of them. Most people come post Saturn return or around that time or way after. So I always, and what's interesting too is that the amount of like the people that are like born after 2000 that come to me, I swear over 50% are Aquarius suns. So that says something, right? Um, so with, you know, Uranus on your sun, you're someone that if you can like meditate and you can get your mind silent, you can get these, it's like antennas. You can get these downloads, right? And that's such a talent that such few people have. And then you have Neptune in that eighth house too. So you're someone who can really like, that's why like something like psychology or some kind of healing, right? You really, really feel the undercurrents of human psychology, right? Um, you know, you're really able to kind of feel at one with other people. So anything like metaphysical pursuits are, you know, awesome. And you'll, through those, like you could literally like have something like I had where I started learning astrology. I was like, yo, I know this shit already from past lives, right? Um, but like it gives you this ability to like easily sense like the emotional undercurrents, right? And then the Uranus, it's just like it makes one super fascinated by the deeper side of life and by metaphysics, right? And with the South Node, it gives you that past life, um, you know, energy of having been there. And the fact that your sun is there with your South Node is super fascinating because it's saying that you're here in this lifetime continuing, right? You're continuing this pursuit, this depth, right? This, and a lot of the eighth house is also about shadow work because there's a lot of shadow work that's needed when we're, you know, death, rebirth, transformation, right? Letting parts of us die. It's like the snake shedding the skin. That's a theme through your life. So I'm sure you can break your life into different, even though you're very young, and this will make even more sense as you grow older, you'll be able to like really break your life into different like sectors of like, okay, this era, this era, this era. And like they feel so fucking different. It is insane. It's not like average people. Eighth house suns, like we have it like crazy in that way, right? So touching on your moon in Aries, right? In the 10th house. Your midheaven's on the 0 Aries point. So you have a very, and you have Mars on the midheaven. So it's very interesting because Mars is 28 Pisces, my sun, which means that you have Neptune conjunct Sun right now transit. We'll talk about that. Oh, that's a different reading, but hopefully you add that one after the current astrology. I'll talk about at the end. But basically, you're very driven, right? Mars on the midheaven creates someone who is really a go-getter in career. Now, with that said, the 0 Aries point is a very powerful point, right? And it speaks to new beginnings, the first sign of the zodiac, and that's your midheaven. So I think that, you know, just the Aries midheaven itself, there is this great like leadership, and with the moon there especially, and Jupiter there too, there's this great leadership potential, right? This, it's like a midheaven, right? And Aries, I think of entrepreneurship. Now, what's interesting is that the Mars in Pisces is very much about humanity and healing. So it could be some type of thing where you might be like really amazing at something that something that is entrepreneurial, right? But then also touches on these other, you know, these other more empathetic, healer, mystical talents that you have, and you may, and they could be talents that, you know, you're going to continue to uncover, right? So, and then with your ninth house having Mars and Mercury in Pisces there, that is even more like Mercury in Pisces when you're not when you're not a Pisces sun and it's not combust or anything like that in the ninth house, and it has a nice sextile of Saturn, which I have that too, and that is a game changer, right? Because Mercury in Pisces, it's the Mercury is your mind, so it's an mind communication. So in Pisces, it makes you like, it's like the connection between this side and the other side, right? But sometimes people with Mercury in Pisces and Mars in Pisces, you have there's an amount of time you have to spend alone because you can, by osmosis, sometimes you have like a super high intuition, amazing imagination, right? And this real deep compassion. But sometimes you can take on like thoughts, negative emotional patterns, especially if it's coming from like the parents or people you grew up with, right? Um, that aren't yours. So when you spend time alone, you're able to know, okay, that was mine. Like that shame that I felt, like that wasn't me. That was someone else. Um, but sometimes, yeah, there's that difficulty distinguishing reality from fantasy. Um, and it can kind of sometimes make someone like, disappear into a dream world before kind of being jolted back to reality. But overall, the fact that it's in the ninth house makes you really want to explore the realms of knowledge and the realms of truth, because like I said, in past lives, that's been, you've been lied to. There's been a lie that's pushed you away from, like, if you would have known all the stuff that you're like learning in this life, you would have done it differently, right? So the big thing for you is finding truth, which takes you to different cultures, talking to different people like myself and other people, different philosophical outlooks. So you are, a big thing for you is forming your worldview, right? Which is very, very based on you individually, right? Um, and then the Mars in the ninth house makes someone like very adventurous through travel, study, spirituality, and just like that quest for exploring that higher meaning of life, right? But like the Mars and Pisces, this is what's really interesting is, it's on the midheaven, the Dharma, 2 degrees away, and it is that strong drive for a spiritual path. And it also is very highly intuitive. So you have a really highly intuitive, wow, chart. It's crazy. And the fact that the Neptune, which rules these two Pisces planets, is on the south node, is saying that that's coming from the past life, which is fucking cool. Is that cool to think about? That like a lot, like that you're able, like if you just start learning different things and you allow your intuition to guide you to what really lights your fire, um, you will find like things that you start learning and you're just like, I fucking just get this shit. So yeah, that's really cool. The thing with Mars and Pisces though, just like on another level, is that it can make it difficult. You are an Aries moon, so Aries moons are very assertive, sometimes angry. I live with one, my girlfriend. Um, but like they're definitely go-getters, and I love Aries moon females because I just feel like they just they just don't take shit. Like they're badasses and nothing can ever fucking hold them down. But it's very important for them to go and like work out and sweat it out. When an Aries moon has the gym or has a creative or a physical outlet, it doesn't have to be the gym, you can do whatever you want. But that's a game changer for them because they have so much fire energy inside. And if they don't let it out, it can kind of like run amok. And that's with the Mars and Pisces, there can be victim like behavior and kind of like passive aggressiveness sometimes. Um, if they have difficulty, like there can, and then also with Pisces and this Neptunian energy, boundaries. So I need to talk to you about this because this is like boundaries and alone time. So important because for you to actualize in the highest way, you need to have alone time. Not all the time, right? There's that balance, and Aquarius is a very social sun sign, right? But the fact that it's in the eighth house means that it is in these very like you're not a superficial person at all. There's no fucking way, right? So it's really in kind of whether it's like self-study or taking a route in life that's very different. The world's going to change a lot. And you're very young. So if you, I don't know, like if something like astrology interested you or psychology or whatever, like it's just about taking those risks that get you to the next level. Um, so as I was saying, right? So midheaven on um Mars, right? Um, midheaven on Mars is it makes someone very confident usually in their professional life. But like I said, there's that mix between like that very entrepreneurial leadership and wanting to do things for the greater good, right? Wanting to have the like compassion play a role. And it would kind of seem like a waste. I mean, yeah, you can do like something like business like and still use these talents, right? Because you'll be able to see through people and know who to trust and all that. But like, I think that you would prefer it. I mean, I imagine that you could there's a whole lot that you can do. Like it's really kind of endless, but I think that like using these innate talents, these healing mystical talents is one of the best potentials, right? Um, but yeah, like one thing with Mars on the midheaven also, it's very good at like setting goals and like steadily getting to them. But sometimes in Pisces, if the goals aren't aligned to something they deeply care about, um, if they're aligned to ego, right? More than soul. So it's like asking yourself, what do I need and what do I want? What does God want from me? What does the universe want from me? Right? What does my higher self want from me? And because it's Leo, North Node, you know, it could be that you're meant to go out and make shit happen for yourself. And maybe there's different eras in your life, right? In terms of career. Um, so yeah. It's important also not to put too much pressure on yourself in areas of career, because what can happen is that people who with Mars and MC, like they are go-getters, they are able to like, if once they figure out that thing or those things that they love, they can have that slow and steady like, success, and they just go get. Um but yeah, it's important to balance out that outer life with that inner life, right? Because the inner life is what underpins everything, right? Um, so then the fact that you have that moon in Aries, just like my girlfriend conjunct Eris, I would imagine you have a little bit of a temper sometimes. I mean, I've never met an Aries moon conjunct Eris that doesn't have the potential for like a volcanic temper. Now, of course, everyone has their own, uh, you know, like it's something that can be channeled, right? But I definitely think that a lot of clarity for you comes when you're sweating, when you're doing things that are, you know, like Aries moons need to fucking move. They're very active. So you have an emotional need for independence, also, right? You have an emotional need for adventure and for fun and for just liveliness. Like you want to feel alive. You want to take risks, right? So then with Jupiter there in the 10th, right? And then also the moon in the 10th, speaks to like um, like so much ambition, right? Someone who's willing to spend so much time being the best at what they do. There's almost like a need to be publicly recognized for their achievements. So it creates a high percentage that they'll be, successful in whatever they choose to do. Um, but the moon in the 10th house, it definitely means that there will be lots of changes during the course of your life in terms of your kind of career and dharma, right? So like whether it's like rises and falls in terms of like popularity and success, um and also, yeah, like moving into a completely different field of work at least once in your life, right? The moon there. And a lot of times moon and Aries people, like under stress, they want to go out and like challenge themselves in some way. They love challenges. And they're just go-getters, right? So it's like you have all this firepower that's in the 10th house, which is the house of career and dharma. And then the fact that you have Jupiter there, that is like a career dharma, like it's a guardian angel, right? Because Jupiter in the 10th house, it really is like your public life, your professional life, whatever, is is ultimately like you want to do something where through your work you're learning a lot about your truth, your truth. That so you're like that is a mega important thing for you, right? Is you know, but I think Jupiter 10th house people, like one thing I see is like a lot with the second house Jupiter, but also 10th house is like they can like lose a job, right? And you know, then a month passes and then boom, they get hit up by who knows who, like a friend that they, used to work with, or, whatever they just know from college, or I don't know. And then like, hey, like, like I know you lost your job, but my company's hiring. And I think you might like it. And then you go to the interview, they love you, and all of a sudden you have a job that's, like better paying, way better people, way better like everything. That's common with like a 10th or a second house Jupiter I've seen. But yeah, I think with the Eris and Moon and Aries, like, yeah, um, just if there is any kind, like, because like the Moon is unconscious, so it's like really, really, really becoming your own guru, right? And delving into that past life mystic energy, right? um, and allowing pieces of that, um, to, like if they're not serving you right now, being able to let go of them. So it's interesting that your that your that your ascendant is Cancer, because what it does, I actually used to have a friend who had Aries Sun, Aquarius Moon, Cancer Rising, so very similar to you, right? And um, it's actually a really great benefit for you because you have these two very active energies as your sun and your moon. So that's one thing that's interesting when you have an Aries moon, is that people won't necessarily understand that intensity that you have until they get to know you, right? And as a Cancer rising, you'll have this very calming, soothing energy to you externally, right? Um, I refer to it as like a very familial energy, right? Like people feel like they know you. People feel like they can trust you. People feel like because Cancer risings kind of come off as like family to people. They come they because Cancer rules family, so Cancer risings have this very, very soothing energy. And it's, people tend to trust them, and they tend to be very, very good people, very, and even as an Aries moon, I think that the Cancer, even though they're squaring by elements, um, I think it's more of a benefit than anything, because I think that, you know, coming off in a way that is very, very chill, um, and then the intensity can kind of be like a surprise for people who really get to know you. The intensity and that real go-getter, that real fire. It's better than the other way around, because the other way around would be uh, Moon in Cancer and Ascendant in Aries, and then people would expect you to be way less sensitive than you are. And then you have this fragile, innocent Cancer Moon, and then people aren't expecting you to be and you can get your feelings hurt. So this is a lot better, and it really definitely, like, it's really nice, right? And yeah, Cancer risings makes the chart ruled by the moon, so following the lunar cycles is very important for Cancer risings. And what else? Yeah, so the moon rules your chart from the 10th house, so your emotions, you learn a lot about yourself through your emotions, right? Through your unconscious emotions. But Cancer risings typically aren't the biggest risk takers. Usually they prefer to like wait until they feel more comfortable before like kind of pursuing their purpose. And they prefer to usually like let other people take the initiative. But as an Aries moon, Aquarius, I don't necessarily think this is the case. I think this just kind of like adds some balance to it, and adds some feminine energy to otherwise masculine energy of Aries and Aquarius. Um, but yeah, like super caring of other people in your life, especially family and close friends, um, pets, the elderly, and just caring for humanity in general, makes someone very like very, very hospitable and but also having very strong feelings, right? Um, they can go from like the deepest compassion to like the most intense hatred, right? Um, so yeah. But yeah, you definitely bring like this real feeling of like warmth, emotional satisfaction to the people that you're around. So um so yeah, with the North Node, you are, like I said, on this quest. Hey, Esmond, you want to help me this time? On this quest, for personal values, for developing your own personal values, like leaving behind like past lives where, maybe there was like an overdependence. Eighth house, sometimes there is like an overdependence on other people or other symbols of power. And yeah, you're really trying to like develop inner strength in this lifetime, right? So there can be times, like I said, of loneliness. Um, but that is, part of the grand lesson. So, and that within those times of isolation, that's where you really um kind of find yourself creatively. So like Leo, like I want to say it again, like Leo is the inner child, right? Leo is fun. So you're supposed to have fun in this lifetime. You're supposed to just be a kid. So anything like that speaks on partnerships too. You asked about that. Um, you want to be around, and I'll get into all of it, but really having partners on one end. Of course, you have the Venus and Juno in um Capricorn, right? In seventh house. But then like, just with the North Node, like, you definitely don't want to be around someone who's super overly somber, in the sense that like you don't feel like you can be your kind of childish, goofy self. Because for Leo, North Node, that's extremely important. Um, share the sixth house. So it's actually very interesting because going back to your whole, I'll get to the love stuff in a sec, but like going back to this whole skip step with Jupiter square the nodes, right? Um, so having Chiron in Sagittarius, right? Um, that can actually make one insecure about their own beliefs, their visions, their version of truth, right? Um, so that leads to someone who is meant to travel the world and always study and just be around different cultures and different spiritual paths, right? And really just whatever means truth to you. Just trying like not just sticking with one side, right? Like with one opinion, one popular opinion. Really just trying this one on, trying that one on, blah blah blah. Um, and then sixth house Chiron. Sometimes they have like some kind of like medical thing when they're younger. Um, and it leads there can also be like feelings of feeling like physically inadequate, like insecurity in that realm. So the it's actually Chiron sixth house is someone who might also, sixth house rules your everyday life, so they might actually be a healer in their everyday life, right? And because they search for self-healing on a regular basis typically, right? um and they can have the potential to teach healing abilities, and it's with Pluto in the sixth. So Pluto and Vesta. So Vesta is linked to work, and Black Moon Lilith is there too. So let's just see what Esme thinks. Esme, please, baby. Oh, it's your birthday. It's Esme's birthday. Happy birthday, Esme. On a full moon, poor baby, slow return. Hey, look, do your thing. Hey, you looked at the sun. Wait, do that again. I know you looked. I didn't see. I think you looked at the sun. Look, do you think? Look. Oh, you stared at the Chiron and you meowed. Okay, well, I don't know. Is you were you actually working? Oh, interesting. Because sixth house is also about pet. So you could actually like be very, very healed from pet. Maybe that's what she was trying to say, because that actually is a real thing. Um, but yeah, so Pluto in the sixth is very much about just like how crucial your daily routine is to your life. Um, People with that can, if they work too hard, if they're working the wrong way, they can have like dramatic changes to their health. Um, and it's the whole thing is like, recognizing um the link between um mind and spirit, right? Mm, okay. So let me see one thing. But yeah, sixth house Pluto also, it's definitely Pluto is very important in my brand of astrology because it's really like where your darkness is, um, but where you can find the most growth. Kind of like the North Node, but more of a more darkness to it, right? It's like the underworld. Pluto's the underworld. So Pluto in the sixth house is it's really about um like this deep re-examination of the self, right? On all levels. Like reassessing um, the self's drive to constantly like re-authenticate, I guess, itself. Um, and it's all about deconstruction of the self. And the main word is service to others, right? So like it's really, and that this is what's interesting is because your south node's in Aquarius, so you have been the person who's been the servant, not servant, the person who's been of service, right? But you can still be a creator, in some way where you are of service. Um, but you're doing, like, the creative work you're doing, which I don't think of creativity just as like views or whatever, I think of it as like, you finding what you're good at and then you going for it, what you love and what you're good at. So yeah, useful work is what's really important. And that brings like this deep humility. Um, and then that makes that person understand themselves on a deeper level, right? And because Pluto's with Chiron, that's very interesting, right? Because that is showing how through being a healer, right? So it's in Sag, like you're activating your worldview, and the truth comes when you put yourself at the service of others. The truth emerges, your truth, your subjective truth, right? Because we all have a different truth. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting because I said with the North Node and Leo, it's going from the we to the me, but this one's more about going from the me to the we. So they kind of contradict each other, but um, it's just about not being self-centered, right? And being and really, really doing things. But like, it's just like the question becomes, how can I be useful, right? But I would say it's like, how can I be special while how can I be useful while being special? That's how I would put it for you. So how can I shine? How can I, and also like Leo North Node, I think it's because your idea of the truth has been pushed back. Now that you're learning more and more in your idea of the truth, and I don't know if you ever do, like, I just want to see if you have asteroid Urania. That'd be crazy. That's like the asteroid of astrology. if you have it conjunct anything important. Ooh, you have a more on the midheaven? Damn. That's like, oh shit. Oh no. I thought I thought I had it. But it's kind of like it's actually close to your Uranus. Um it's interesting. That's me. Yeah, because it's basically 13, so four from yeah, yeah. And Uranus is the planet that rules astrology. So yeah, I don't know. If you're ever interested, I do one-on-one teaching for astrology. I have maybe one spot left if you're ever interested. Um, but yeah, you have asteroid Amor. And then asteroid Amor on the midheaven is fascinating, but like, what am I seeing? 0, 0, 0, 0, 29. Okay. Oh yeah, and then you have scat with okay. So having a more on the MC makes it so you are able to have unconditional love for humanity, and that makes me think of you as a fucking healer. It's exact with your midheaven. So like in your work, the principle of unconditional love can be a huge factor. Um, and then the Urania asteroid is the asteroid of astrology, and it is, close to your Uranus Sun conjunction. So, you know, I don't know if you have interest in astrology, but that could be something. Um, what was the other one? What was it? It was with here. Also, you could have relationships like that have kind of almost like a obsessive kind of energy to them, like like a very sexual, like very almost like I don't know, like a very almost like sexually obsessive like connections that could be formed. Okay, yeah. Um, so yeah, you have to watch out for accidents. Yeah, with Mars. You just have to like, you know, um, yeah, just like be careful. Like, don't do like crazy fucking, you know, I don't know, like don't take be like, if you're gonna take a risk like something like skydiving or something, I don't know, like just really make sure that every everything is totally under control. Okay, so as we were talking about, yeah, so the fact that Best is in the sixth and Sag, that makes you very committed to serving others, right? Um, and lots of dedication to heal people and dedication to service through healing. Um, so and then Vesta and Sag, that makes you like very idealistic in terms of like what you are willing to work towards, right? You can work like relentlessly and obsessively for a cause that you really care about. And it's important though not to exclude other people's point of view, um, to be very open-minded to the way other people see things, right? But yeah, it makes this speaks to your work as well of like really wanting, and I've seen this, right? Really wanting to through your work to gain a high like a higher idea of truth. That's like, I'll give you an example of my work. Like I talk to people from all over the world, and I hear tons of interesting stuff, right? And even like therapist work, you just hear like like such interesting stuff, right? And you learn so much about the world and how people are. Like people are telling you all their secrets, right? So that'd be an example. I'm sure there's tons of them, right? But that's one example that came to mind. Um, so let's see. So Black Moon, Lilith, and Sag. So that is similar. Black Moon, Lilith, and Sag in the sixth. Um, so it's really important for you to be organized with your work, and just in your daily life, like your work schedule and you know, like making sure that you're not given too many duties that can lead to burnout. But like overall, there's really a need to organize your daily workload. Um, and it goes back to that boundary thing, right? Of like, because sometimes that Pisces, Mars, and Mercury wants to make everyone happy, and it's like that having that right to say no, right? Um, so that's really, really important, right? Um, to really be able to kind of put yourself out there and be like, look, I'm not doing this. I have, you know, and that's how people, like people gain respect for people who are very firm on their boundaries, right? Um, so then Black Moon in Sag. So remember, Sag is a self-defeating behavior. We all have it. It's us when we're at our lowest vibration. So the Sag one can be like dogmatism, where it's like, I've worked so hard to find my own philosophies. If you don't believe them, fuck you, or if it's all about understanding that everyone has their own truth. Also, it's about throwing yourself into too much stuff potentially, right? And kind of like, oh, I can do the Superman, Superwoman syndrome. Like I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that, and before you know it, you're just in over your head, right? And then that with the Pluto there can lead to some and Chiron some health issues if you overwork yourself in a way that's not aligned with your highest being. That's why I think healing and some kind of soft work that's mixed with that thrill of entrepreneurship, would be like something amazing for you. Um, so yeah. So yeah, sometimes there's just a need to like temper your enthusiasm and really give others the freedom to kind of express their own passions. And yeah, just that mix of like listening taking in information and giving, having like that really fair exchange. Sometimes Black and Lilith and Sag can be a little bit wild. I'm just joking. I'm a Sag moon, so. But yeah, sometimes they can, like it can be really, really difficult for them um, to deal with people who just, aren't where they're at, And it also can be a fear of meaninglessness, right? Like a fear of being deceived, um, but also a fear of not finding the overall truth, right? And like deep issues, with what life means and the spiritual truth. So there can be like this endless questioning. And also like if other people are being truthful, and even if we're being truthful to ourselves. So, and even if life is truthful, it's a very existential, right? Um, and the integration that comes from stopping this questioning of everything and starting to just believe, right? Um, what is important and meaningful to you, right? And narrowing down your need for truth to what really matters. I think, like, once again, creating your own personal truth. I think also like being able to, you know, just really siphon through the BS in the world and and stick to a few things, because sometimes the Sag can just like spread itself way too thin and start this, start that, start this, start this, start this, and then before they know it, it's better to focus a lot on one or two things than and then yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. That's cool, but if you're constantly starting one thing, then the other, then the other, then the other, then the other, then you don't get anywhere, right? All right, moving forward. So let's see if I hit everything. Yeah, so just back with the Saturn in the 11th. You know, it just makes someone like shy in groups of people. Who, like I said earlier, like would prefer to have like a handful of serious friendships than like a bunch of like whatever ones. And people with Saturn 11th are very careful with selecting their friends. And they're not always the most open to like letting new people in. Um, and sometimes it can be difficult for them to make friends, but then the Saturn return comes and things get a lot easier. But it's just one of those things, Saturn isn't making any difficult um aspects in your chart. In fact, you have like only one difficult aspect in your whole chart. I guess two. So yeah. Um Also your moon is sextile Sun. I already kind of talked about that, but that's just really, really good for like the Aquarius and the Aries work really well together. So being able to really like if your Sun and your Moon are the two ships to your captain, they're both going in a very similar direction. So it makes one able to like, it's good for success, good for kind of just being able to kind of go in the right direction and not feel like one part of you is going this way, one part's going that way, right? All right. Okay, so love stuff. Um, so yeah, basically like as a Venus conjunct Juno. Juno is like Venus is like love language dating. Um, Juno is like that next level, right? Um, so with both in Capricorn in the um the seventh, right? So first of all, having Venus in the seventh is the best place to have Venus, right? Because what happens is that you're able to see the best in your partner. It's the best house for Venus, and it makes it very, very, likely and all that you'll marry and that that you'll have a very nice love life, right? Um, because you possess that ability, like I said, to see the beauty in your intimate partners, and have very harmonious relationships, right? And peaceful ones too. Now, with the Capricorn, it can make one quite shy in relationships, really taking things slowly. And because Venus is unaspected, it can sometimes create an energy where people with that sometimes will put everything, there can be codependency where they need to learn a lesson sometimes around like, yeah, relationships are great, but they're not everything. And sometimes people with unaspected Venus, they it's very, very rare, right? Because it's so close to Sun and Mercury. Um, there can be a lot of like there can be somewhat of like an obsession with with relationships, and sometimes it's like the energy of like how you're doing, like how are you doing? Sometimes that is um is answered based on how well a relationship's doing. So it brings like very intensified emotions and social needs. Um, so yeah, it really magnifies like kind of everything with that Capricorn Venus. And it can really also in Capricorn make someone materialistic. Um, like a lot of like interest in becoming financially successful or secure, which isn't a bad thing. Obviously, Venus in Capricorn is very good for money. Um, but yeah, there's just like a lot of emphasis on like being attractive, flirtatious, charming, um, or just like being appreciated and being and finding love, right? So it's not bad. It's just like, it's just important to not overdo it, right? Like there's nothing like no one wants to have all the pressure. I'm not saying this is you, by the way. I'm just saying, like it's an uncomfortable feeling. I think a lot of people try to create God out of their partners. Not saying you do that. I'm just saying that that's kind of what can happen sometimes in an aspect of Venus. So the answer is self-love, right? Um and understanding that as a North Node in Leo and an Aries moon, that even in relationships, an Aries moon needs a level of independence. Like they can't feel trapped in. They want to feel, but that kind of contracts, right? So now you have Venus square moon. But let me talk about your Venus first, because like yeah, Venus and Capricorn, they care about commitment. They really want to build the foundations, like a big, big building. They want slow relationships, people that are enduring, people they can trust, super solid, lots of commitment, and also very karmic, right? And it also, on a money level, it makes you very responsible with your money and your possessions, and good at manifesting it. So besides that, yeah, sometimes it can be like too serious of an approach to relationships, but that's not always bad. Like it's just about finding someone else who is also serious, but then also has that kind of spark and that fun. But they're smart because like they sometimes look at relationships like from like kind of like a business. Like they want it to stand the test of time. And they don't give their heart away easily, right? Which is very, very, very good. Um, so and they never settle for less than they deserve, right? They're kind of boss energy when it comes to relationship, and rightfully so. It takes them time to open themselves up, right? But once they do let down that guard, they really like are super loyal partners that will do whatever it takes to make the relationship work. Um, so in terms of love language, it's usually like more about showing your affection based on what you do rather than what you say, right? Like not the type who's gonna shout their love from the rooftops. But more about like, this like kind of steadfast, consistent devotion and putting in effort, the little things that matter. And you want to be noticed for those little things, right? So yeah, being able to like the most important thing is being able to have someone you can count on through thick and thin, you know, and who's not, yeah. So and also like, oh yeah, I can't believe I forgot that. Like someone with someone who is definitely like going somewhere in their life. You don't want a bum. You want someone who you can respect, like based on like their work and stuff like that. So then the fact you have Juno and Venus together, Juno is like what you look for like in a next level marriage partner. They're right next to each other, 2 degrees away, 2.5 degrees away. So Juno the 7th, that just makes someone that's very, very like, like you're gonna get married. I'm sorry, like you are. I mean, like I'll be so surprised. Venus and Juno the 7th. So yeah, and it makes Juno the 7th makes you want a very committed relationship slash marriage, and it's a big goal of yours, right? Now, of course, you can like watch the Russell Brand videos. It's something like called like Finding God in Relationships or something like that. Finding God in Your Lover. I don't know. It's only one of the only videos I've seen of him, but it was really good. And yeah, like once again, it's the same things. Capricorn, like wanting a partner you can respect, someone who has their shit together, someone that can provide you with security, like on all levels, and someone who's serious about the shit, long-term commitment. So, yeah. And sometimes, oh yeah, with Venus in things come to me. Venus in Capricorn, sometimes they prefer um, older partners. And yeah, so like older, more mature, more solid, right? So that's something for sure. And besides that, your descendant is also in Capricorn. So, Capricorn is a sign that's really getting a lot. But then when we connect it to the rest of your chart, with your North Node in Leo, like I was saying, it's just important. It's just important to have someone who doesn't take you away from that play. And the thing about Capricorn, and this is and we'll get to the square at the moon, is that Capricorn can be overly serious sometimes, right? So, and I would never say you like this is the kind um, person you need, blah blah blah. Like I would never say that. Or this is the sign you need, excuse me. So, yeah. Also, like with the Capricorn energy, it can be quite traditional too. But then you have all that Uranus energy, which is the opposite. So I'm curious, maybe in love, there's more of like a traditional energy. Um, but sometimes Venus and Capricorn, like it takes them longer to marry because sometimes they struggle with self-esteem for like their first 30 years, or first 25 years, like but after the Saturn return, like a lot of their real like partners come. But it's not like so bad like having Saturn the 7th for that purpose. But a lot of them when young feel unworthy of love a lot of times. So yeah. And a lot of people with that, like they also sometimes like feel cursed, when it comes to romance and relationships, right? But it's all about like self-esteem and learning to really, really, really not be perfectionist, right? So yeah, it's like kind of power couple vibes. Oh yeah, another thing about Capricorn Venus is that sometimes they have a lot of trust issues, and they can also have lots of periods of feeling lonely. Um, so yeah, but it is really good for, like I said, for success in your profession, and people who like genuinely enjoy working have this a lot of times, right? So any kind of like job that you like could be really good, and money is usually very important to the Venus is what you love, and Capricorn is so well, Capricorn is a means to the money. So yeah, they try to be financially successful, and they tend to achieve it. So really good for money management also. Serious people in that respect. Um, so and then Juno and Venus together is a super powerful like divine feminine combination. And it create whether regardless of whether it's in a man or a woman, it creates a love for women. And I don't mean that necessarily in like a lesbian or bisexual way. I just mean like it's very good for like connecting with women. Um, and also it just means that that you're likely to love very, very passionately, right? Lots of passion and love, right? Um, so yeah. And and then it just makes like relationships a big priority in life. But okay, so besides that, let's see. Part of fortune is in the third house. Oh, no, Sirius is on in the fourth house in Libra. So Sirius in Libra, it's just you know, like you feel very loved for and nurtured when there's that atmosphere of peace and beauty in your life, right? So in relationships, that speaks also to that, that need for that peace and that fairness and that close, that balance in the relationship, right? Balance. And fourth house, just really caring for your family. And if you become a parent, or if you are a parent, like just like that being a big part of your life. And usually great attachment to the mother. And vertex in Libra also is, the doorway to higher awareness is through relationships. So it's through relationships that, whether they last an hour or a few years, these are what really, really brings you that gives you that doorway to a higher level of awareness. And it can even be a business partnership, client partnership, like this is a, seventh house partnership, Libra partnership. But yeah, you have these very karmic relationships that will open a lot up. And then fourth house vertex, there's like a real connection to your usually to your country of birth. Um, although I mean, I would say more about like the ancestry. Um, and yeah, and lots of destiny connected to one parent in particular. So maybe, yeah, there's something deep with like the ancestral line there. But also like what's interesting is like I don't necessarily think it's just to that country you're from. I think people with this, they feel like really, really destined to live in a certain place. And I don't believe that it's just where you're from, I think you can, like me with Romania, I don't have this placement, but like I'm meant to live here, right? And I didn't grow up here, and I have I had no connections here. I moved here not knowing anyone. So yeah. And just like how much like amazing stuff comes to your life when you truly move to the right place. So Pallas in the second in Leo is a very creative mind. Somebody likes to play with words. Uh, second house, really good for handling money and having like good strategic creative schemes around like, you know, like very, very, yeah, around like kind of like ways to make money. And yeah, I just think with the North Node, I think you're meant to be unconventional and you're meant to do things your own way, you know? And the more you can kind of like love that about yourself and just like understand it and just like take it in, the better. But yeah, I think with love also, Mars and Pisces gives like a very sensual and romantic side to that as well. But with the Aries, so this is the square with Aries and Venus, right? That's super important because that can make it difficult to express feelings in relationships. And sometimes Venus in Capricorn can have that same thing. And it can be difficult to feel like you can really relax and be yourself with your loved ones. This will get easier after Saturn return, after 29 and a half, 30. Um, but like you can also work on it by just like pushing yourself to learn to be to express your feelings and to be vulnerable. That can make vulnerability difficult. But once you've learned to really um, express your feelings in a loving manner, you can really develop that, like a real understanding of relationships and have a lot of success in them. So then, of course, the moon is so important in relationships, and the sun, I guess, too. Like, so on the sun level, it's like, yeah, you like I'm not saying you have to be with someone spiritual, but you cannot be with someone, in my opinion, that pushes away your gifts. Like they should at least give you space, um, you know, and at least encourage, um, and not just shut it down because that would be horrible, right? That'd be horrible because you need to feel like you're able to be your authentic self. So then finally, yeah, the moon in that respect is definitely moon in Aries. They just need independence, They need independence. So yeah, they need independence, right? And they they want fun. They want action, they don't want to just stay in one they don't want a boring life, they want something that's moving and they want action, they want to really live. So yeah, like a big, I would say like the if I name this, it would be, like truly learning to become your authentic self, and take creative risks. I'll write that down because that is really at the essence of everything, right? Um, so yeah, like the more you can cultivate enthusiasm, courage, creativity, um, but like as a part of a group and in a way that's pushing things forward in a good way, like that is the best. So yeah. Well, actually, the thing with the group is actually kind of interesting because of the South Node's in Aquarius. So it's like it's not necessarily that it has to be a part of a group. Let me take that back. It's more so that that's the tendency. So sometimes we take the South Node energy and we use it to get to our North Node. But it is really important for you to do things on your own in this lifetime, right? Um, so yeah. And like another thing with the Leo North Node is that yeah, there just was like a suppression of your individuality. Probably like imagine like a past life where you had to like take care of all these people, maybe there's like a crisis and you just took the role. And because of that, you or just like some like big commitment you made, you weren't able to express yourself and learn about your creative nature. Oh my God, I just spilled tea all over. It's like dark, not tea, it's green juice. Oh God. Gross, 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 gross. So yeah, what else? Yeah, so like another thing about that is like there could have been like, like in past lives, like bad role model. And it's like on you or maybe in this life as well. So even though you don't have any like really bad aspects from your moon, with your sun and your moon, so like I'm not really thinking like that there's that bad energy with the parents. I mean, it just doesn't show that in the chart. But you know, I mean the father could have, the son could have been the father, could have had like a very, very could have been a little bit detached potentially. Um, and then if the moon is the mother, it could have been fiery but it's not bad. Um, maybe even inspirational, perhaps. Yeah. So like with the South Node Aquarius, it's like in past lives preferring logic to emotions, but now um your soul wants to like just truly express itself freely. So it's like um, important life lessons are learned by following your heart, rather than listening to your intellect. That is so key. I'm so fucking happy I remembered that. And taking risks and being courageous, as I said before, that is the heart of the lion. And just developing your individuality. Maybe I need to add that. Truly learning to become your authentic self while taking risks and cultivating. That's going to be too many characters, but whatever. And yeah, it's all about finding strength within yourself, you know? And what else? Yeah, so like once, and like the last thing I'll say is that once you truly start to like really express your individuality, which might seem scary at first, people like navigate to you, and God sets things up that are beyond your greatest dreams. Okay, let me look at the email. Make sure yeah, so my relationship, love partner. Well, I don't know. Love partner, land, future family life. Is the possible time? So yeah, possible time to get married. I don't look at that. I mean that would be like in the current astrology, but like I still like. I mean, yeah, I can like look at. I mean that's a different reading. This is natal chart. You know, this doesn't change. I always separate the two because so this is how it works. People get this reading, right? You keep this forever. You can watch it as many times, like your whole life. You only have to get this done once. Maybe you get it done by other astrologers. Who knows? Um, but then the current astrology, it's always changing. Like I told you before, that right now Neptune is, right on your Mars, because your Mars equals my Sun and my Mercury. So that's just one little transit. I look at like there's so much that goes into the current astrology. But I'd be happy to in that session. So yeah, I'd be down to do it for $50 less. And yeah, so we'd have like hour one, the follow up, which you already have, I believe. And then hour 2 and 3, it's usually around that time. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more. We go through all the different current astrology stuff, right? And most astrologers, like guys like the Peace Dealer, he'll have like $300 or $400 for or $500 for progress chart. It's fucking a ripoff. $500 for whatever, like for transits, $500 for solar return, and like literally, it's like I don't know, it's insane. But for me, I have it all done in a way where it's all in one reading. I call it current astrology / spiritual alignment, and it's like the year plus of you understanding the energy that's coming, the energetic themes and what's really on the horizon. So this one is like the grand book, and that one is like the chapter. So yeah, so let me know about that, and I appreciate you being patient, and talk soon. All right, ciao, ciao, ciao. Cheers.